All right, enough with the music. Garrett, good afternoon. How's it going?
How's it going, Dave?
All right, enough with the music. Garrett, good
Ready to roll.
afternoon.
Big storm coming.
Busy, but
Yep.
of course the 2025 hurricane season decided to save its most destructive for last. September was dead, early October was dead, and now we've got the strongest storm this late in the season on record. 175 mile per hour, category 5 pressure. You see it right above my left ear here. 906 millibars. That is the lowest pressure this late in the year, and I'm now seeing that this is the driest eye ever recorded in a tropical cyclone worldwide. Garrett, have you seen this? This is crazy.
Yeah, I knew it was in the top three of any storm recorded last night, and it just keeps going. I mean, that's an incredible statistic. I mean, just kind of goes to show. We kind of set the table of how favorable the setup was for this system if it stayed south and west, and we are seeing that pan out. There's only so much that can hold these systems back when the energy is there and the oceanic heat content and the fuel. And then kind of like how you said, if the fuel's there and the exhaust is there, the engine runs pretty efficiently. And I would say that one has been pretty efficient.
Yeah, here Phil Klotzbach, probably one of the hurricane experts in the United States, saying Melissa's pressure dropped to 906. That's the fourth lowest for an October Atlantic hurricane on record. Milton got to 895 last year. And then Mitch. I forgot about Mitch. 27 years ago in 1988.
Yeah, this will go down. I mean, we talk about storms like Mitch and Gilbert and the hurricanes some of the worst hurricanes that never hit the U.S., but still ones that we remember to this day. I gotta believe that Melissa is going to be in that category when all is said and done. Given already its statistics of when it comes to the precedent it's setting, when it comes to its strength, but then obviously the land impacts we'll see here in the next 24 to 48 hours.
I'm gonna pull up. I've got the satellite here, and you can tell it's moving north now. It started to turn. I'm pulling up the telestrator right now, but especially in the past hour and a half. There's my pen. Watch it go. Come on.
It seems to be more than a wobble.
Yeah, it does. It does seem to be more than a wobble. I can't get it going on this monitor. Oh, well. Oh, there we go. Oh, maybe. There we go. There's that movement.
Nice. There you go. Mr. TV.
Yeah, well, I was never known as a drawer, that's for sure. But you can see it's starting to make that northward turn. Yesterday, after you left, Garrett, a lot of folks were asking, could it make a turn west of the island? Because the H-Wharf model yesterday had it missing the island just to the west. I haven't looked at the latest H-Wharf. We can look at it right now together. It now has a landfall where every other model has it, right near Treasure Beach. Right near, what was it, Black River, I think was the town you sent to me.
Yeah, and it's a good cue to kind of pull up our maps of Jamaica and be refamiliarized. Refamiliarized with the localities. But yes, Black River. That's where we were talking about. It seems to have a similar, geographic component in kind of like that small locality as like Southwest Louisiana. Some marshier, swampier land. Moving into what looks to be, I would think St. Elizabeth. I don't know if it's parishes down there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, St. Elizabeth
Or
Parish.
yeah. So that to me, the Black River Bay, seems to be the kind of the focal point right now from Black River to Savannah Lamar. To me is where we're kind of honing in on now.
You think it's gonna be somewhere up here? Yeah. I circled a little bit to the southeast just because wherever the eye wall comes ashore just to the east, that storm surge is going to be unimaginable. 20 feet, probably. Yeah. If Gilbert had 20-foot storm surge in 1988, this might have 25 feet, maybe even higher than that, where that eastern eye wall comes ashore. Somebody made mention to me earlier, Gilbert in 88, and then Charlie, IE, in 51. That was 37 years before Gilbert, and now Melissa is 37 years after Gilbert. I don't know what
Weird.
it is with 37-year return periods for Jamaica, but 1951, Hurricane Charlie with an IE, 1988, Hurricane Gilbert, and now in 2025, this absolute buzzsaw. Veronica's watching from Sweden. I don't think Sweden is getting a hurricane, but thanks for tuning in, Veronica. This is going to turn into a worldwide story in a matter of 24 hours. So you can really start to see that bend to the north and then eventually going to head towards the island tomorrow morning. Landfall time has kind of been, I think, locked in, Garrett. It looks like it's going to be 9 a.m. local time, I think, 10 o'clock or so on the East Coast. I hate how it goes back and forth between storms here. The HAFS hurricane model a little bit later. This is 10 a.m. local time for a landfall, but then HAFS B at about 7 a.m. local time. So I'd say about 8 or 9 a.m. local time tomorrow is when Melissa is going to decide to unleash her wrath on Jamaica.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say right now, I mean, just looking at the 12Z hurricane models, we won't see much, and the Hurricane Center does a good job of communicating this. Any fluctuations won't change what the impacts are going to be. It's kind of baked in at this point. But even the hurricane models don't show much in the way of diminishing of wind speed and raising of pressure. So I would think we're looking at a Category 5 landfall. An interesting tidbit to get a little bit more in depth. I saw, I forget who tweeted it out, so sorry for not giving them credit, but there still is a little bit of shear impacting the system as a whole, and it's the inner core is so intense it's able to fend it off. But you see all of the competing rain bands are actually displaced to the east. So it really has prevented to this point any sort of competition of a concentric eye wall to go for a full eye wall replacement cycle. So the hurricane has been able to maintain itself. And I wonder if that's going to continue, other than the fact that the eye continues to contract. You're either going to have a Wilma set up where tonight we're going to see, the eye, get its minimum central pressure down to the mid 890s, or you will see that inner eye wall collapse because it just gets so small. But it doesn't seem to be because it's going to be due to a competing rain band. Because as the system starts to turn off to the north and northeast, the shear vector will actually become even more favorable. So we should get another kind of blossoming of really extreme thunderstorms around the center tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see another kind of deepening of the system, maybe 10 to 15 more millibars. And
it's at, I'm just going to go to this scene real quick to get an idea. What is it? 906? 906, yeah. Let me go. They can't hear you right now while I'm on this scene. Now they can. 906. I'm going to try to find a way to shrink this down and put it between us since it's more important than our flash logo. Our flash logo looks great, don't get me wrong, but Hurricane Melissa kind of takes precedent in these times. Yeah. Pretty. Just look at this. This is interesting. 2 cameras are already down. 2 of Sea Jamaica's cameras are already down. We started with 8. We're down to 6, and the storm is still 16, 17 hours away from landfall. The harbor camera has been going crazy the past couple of hours. We're going to see how long these cameras stay up. It could be. What Rick wants to know, a couple questions. When will it hit my house? David says hat time. I don't think this is going to hit Des Moines, fortunately or unfortunately. Lowest millibar a hurricane has ever reached. Are we talking in the Atlantic?
Tip.
Or are we, tip. We're talking around the world, or are we talking in the Atlantic? If we're talking around the world, it's Typhoon Tip. Yeah. Yeah, Tip was 870. And I believe there was a recon in Tip. Patricia arguably could have been lower. The recon kind of missed its deepest. And again, ironically, a similar latitude, similar time of year, moving in a similar direction. And what are you pointing at? 870. So he wants to know the Atlantic. Yeah. So that was Wilma. Yeah, 882. 882 millibars. So when Melissa's 24 millibars away, I'm going to look at the Google Mind and see if any members get close to the 880s. I haven't looked at this model today, to be honest. We can find out together here. I mean, these are actually kind of high. There's an 899. A lot of these are completely underdoing its initial intensity,
Yeah.
I think. Like, is this what they're starting out at 924? If it is, it's off by 18 millibars. Well, this is the 6Z run, so this is from 2 a.m. this morning.
Which it was, what, 918 at that time, 917?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you look at this eye, and there is somebody mentioned in the Hurricane Hunter, one of the Hurricane Hunters, saying that there was a eye wall merger. You talked about the chance of an eye wall replacement cycle. That is not going to happen. We already had a merger this morning. There was a Twitter fight between some meteorologists yesterday about an MERC or something. I don't know. Anyways, the point is, even if we do get an eye wall replacement cycle, that is going to weaken the max winds a little bit, but that's going to expand the radius of 80 plus hurricane force winds across the island. The good news for Jamaica in terms of Kingston, the core is not going to come ashore in Kingston. As we mentioned, the core is going to make landfall somewhere between Savannah, Lamar, and probably Black River, somewhere in here. So that keeps the maximum winds. Let's say it makes landfall in White House. We'll say the eye is there. It's about 10 miles wide. That keeps the radius of maximum winds about here. The eye wall is not that big. This is a very compact storm, as we can see on this radar loop. That is a very pinhole eye, which allows it to spin really fast. That's why its maximum sustained winds are 175 miles per hour. But the good news is it's not like Kingston all the way over here is going to see those winds.
Right.
The problem is, if it does track this way, you know what's next is the second most populated city, Montego Bay.
Right. Yeah, which, there's, I would say the concern there would be, if it does trek just east of Montego Bay and you get that strong northeasterly flow into the bay, you could see a pretty significant storm surge event, especially because the system will be moving a little bit faster than it is now, but it's not like it's racing northeast at 25. So you'll have a 2 to 3 hour stretch of onshore flow that will be an issue there. So the track very much matters for these localities, and again, doesn't diminish the threat overall. You're kind of, how severe is it going to be? You get orders of magnitude. It's like earthquakes, right? If you're at a 7.0 earthquake or a 9.0 earthquake, right? The magnitudes change, but they're still both very very impactful. If you're in Kingston, and that is an unbelievable image there, Dave. But if you're in Kingston and you're getting one of the three major threats that we talked about yesterday, with freshwater flooding, saltwater flooding, and the wind, you're probably getting at least one, if not two of those, and any of them on their own can be pretty devastating.
This is an incredible video. This is from Jeremy DeHart. I met him about a year and a half ago. Great guy. From the eye of Hurricane Melissa. It's the stadium effect. These clouds go up at an angle, at about a 45-degree angle with height. I've always wanted to be on a Hurricane Hunter flight, but I would not want to be on this one. Speaking of, one of the flights, did you see this? They had to turn around. They got to the eye wall. They got to the southwestern eye wall, and they had to turn around because the winds were that extreme in the southwestern eye wall. Crazy.
Yeah. Just an unbelievable, that video. That's one of the best eye wall videos I think I've ever seen. That's up there with the image earlier this year with Aaron, where I think it might have been Andy Hazelton or might have been Jeremy DeHart, who took a picture of the ocean surface, and you could see where there were white caps and you could see where there was none, and just how quick it goes from blowing 140 to blowing 25 miles an hour. In the center of that eye, it is calm. It is remarkable. And you go 4 miles over and you're gusting to 200 miles an hour. It really is just an unbelievable display of power that the atmosphere kind of provides us.
You could have a beer in the eye if you wanted. You could do it. You could play golf. You could do anything. You could play a football game in the eye. You just have to move. You have to move with the eye.
Your mascot lives in the eye. You
Correct.
know,
The ibis is the
the
last
ibis.
bird to leave before the hurricane hits. Speaking of birds, I guess the hurricane hunters have found birds in the eye. There's birds in the eye wall.
Wow. Just these systems, especially when they clear their eyes out, they are very, very strong. Wild, wild nature phenomena occur, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, the reason why the eye occurs, the how nature responds to it. You're getting, you're flying these planes through it, and they can just see flocks of birds just traveling along with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
So this is one of the drop signs from this morning's Hurricane Hunter mission. The pressure or the speed you see above me is 150 knots, 175 miles per hour. There was one of the, look at this, 163. Let me move it over here. 163 knots. So the Hurricane Center's current advisory, the 2 p.m. advisory of 175, could be underdone. You could argue it's underdone.
Yeah.
It could be, you probably have got, I don't know, what are they saying in terms of gusts? Are they saying 200? Sustained at 175. Well,
And while you look at that, Dave, a couple questions. How does St. Anne's look? I believe that was,
it's on the northeast side or the north
yeah,
side.
yeah, north side. Uh, to me, it looks like rainfall will be your biggest issue. You're gonna have a blowout tide with the system being on the north, going to your west, so the wind will be from your south. Wind might be decreased a little bit due to the fact that you'll have the mountains protecting it, so you will get some downsloping, and that might actually help bring the rainfall amounts down a little bit in your area. So again, a very, very bad storm, not nearly as bad as what it will be on the south side of the island. You have, kind of that range of, the Blue Mountains, and the, what is it? The Cockpit Hills or the Cockpit Country.
Cockpit
Those
country.
areas, yeah, those areas, that higher elevation will actually act a little bit as a shield where you'll get 10 inches of rain instead of getting 25 inches of rain. Regardless, bad storm, I do think you're okay in those areas. Like everywhere else on the island, stay away from river basins, creek basins, stream beds, anywhere that kind of funnels in. If you can get the higher ground relative to those areas, that will be you'll more than likely be safe. Wow, where is this?
I don't know. This is, I don't know, it doesn't say. I'm assuming it's somewhere on the eastern side of the island. This could be fake, to be honest. Somebody's saying this is fake. I don't know. Who knows? Sean Ford. Oh, this is from 3 days ago. This must be old flooding. This is from October 24th. But it goes to show how quickly things can flood.
Yeah, and I mean, and going back to the drop zone that you mentioned, and again, for those who don't know, and looking at this poll, I think did you put this poll out, Dave? How many are watching from Jamaica?
Oh, yeah,
You
50-50.
know, yeah, and over 150 had answered. So a good amount are watching. To not go, again, I'll say this a few times, to not go too far in depth into the weeds. The hurricane hunters, the aircraft, they fly through and they drop zones into the storm. What's incredible about the image that you are looking at here, with what Dave is showing, you see these bars on the right kind of change with height. Okay, so you see at the bottom of the chart, it's kind of vertical, so north to south, right? And you go to the top, and it's actually more east to west. The drop zone's getting kind of blown, into a different direction. That's how much you're kind of getting moved around. So it's almost moving halfway around the hurricane. That's how tight and the core is. But these drop zones, provide unbelievable information. And some of the drop zones we saw this morning were upper echelon. I'm not sure we saw this in the Katrinas and Ritas, even Milton. Some of these strongest hurricanes, 194 knots at 900 millibars, which is within 1,000 feet of the surface. 175 knots in the lowest 150 meters, which is about 300 or 400 feet. I mean, you're talking about gusts, sustained winds of over 200 miles per hour just above the surface. You're talking gusts, instantaneous gusts, 200 to 250 miles per hour. I mean, you're reaching, I said this earlier this week, I tweeted this out. The only thing that will hold this hurricane back is just kind of the physics of the atmosphere and the physics of the earth. Like you're seeing that realized. This is what, high oceanic heat content, right? The fuel, and then the atmospheric conditions, the exhaust can do for these storms, right? If you get a perfect scenario, there's only so much that can hold them back. And the fact that the hurricane is a tight hurricane and a smaller hurricane, these broader hurricanes, it's why a Katrina and a Rita, which were probably 4 times the size geographically of this hurricane, they weakened coming to shore because they pull in all air around them, right? So you have one little sector that has some dry air and it gets ingested into the center, the core will be disrupted. These things are very fickle. This thing is so tight, so just organized, I guess, but it's also only pulling in moist air around it. There's nothing much to disrupt it other than the physical processes of hurricanes. Everything about this meteorologically is impressive. That's what I'm getting at here.
Yeah. And it's like a figure skater. There's a reason why when they spin, they want to get their arms really tightly packed together because of centrifugal force. They can spin a lot faster when their arms aren't covering as much surface area, which is exactly what's happening in Melissa. This eye is tiny. And even the storm as itself, we mentioned the central dense overcast, like this area of grays. It's really, by and large, not that big at all.
No.
But that's still bad news for Jamaica because it still encompasses just about the entire island of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a question from Suzette in Spanish Town, which is pretty close to Kingston. Very similar conditions to what we're expecting with Kingston, probably gusts 50 to 75 miles per hour over hurricane force in the strongest bands. The biggest concern for me, and if you're a local, you know what I'm talking about, Rio Cobre, okay, the river that runs right along, Boglock Gorge Road right into downtown. Anywhere, and this runs right through downtown. Anywhere near that river, stay away. That is where you're going to see the worst of the flooding coming from all this rain. 20 to 30 to 40 inches of rain in the higher elevations going to run into that river valley, and you are going to see, if not already, you are going to see that river rise into places that you've never seen before if you live in that area. So that is, again, we keep talking about, if you're from the area and knowing the locally higher elevations of each area is so important. And this would be a great case in Spanish Town.
Did I read something else? Oh yeah. Maximum sustained winds and gusts in Kingston. We'll look at Kingston. Looks like Kingston's going to avoid the worst gusts. That's for sure. We'll go surface winds right now. I would say they'll peak around. This is bad for Montego Bay. This is a sustained, instantaneous wind of 115 miles per hour, close to 200 kilometers per hour, and gusts over probably 150. The wind is going to be way worse in Montego Bay than it is in Kingston. Mm-hmm. That's just about a fact.
Yeah,
the storm
looking at it more and more.
Worse. The eye wall.
More.
Go ahead.
Have you seen it? But like, there is probably no precedent for a storm in Montego Bay like this.
Not that I can remember.
It's hard to get hit from this angle where they'll get a northeasterly wind at this intensity, right?
And then at this point in the storm, even though the eye has passed, because cyclones rotate counterclockwise, you're going to get reverse storm surge here. Even though the eye has passed, you're going to get a ton of water getting thrown into Montego Bay tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, even after the storm gets back into the Caribbean Sea. The National Hurricane Center does not put out storm surge numbers for non-U.S. landfalling systems. And I don't want to speculate. I don't like to speculate what this storm surge number could be. But if you've got a 10-meter surface wind gust of 104 miles per hour on the backside of the storm, you've probably got 10 feet of storm surge. I didn't even answer the original question. Gus in Kingston. Looks like the halves doesn't get higher than 60, which would be good. And that goes to show how contracted the highest winds are, or the radius of highest winds. I would say max gusts in Kingston 80 to 90. I don't think, unless it radically shifts east, which it looks like it's not going to, I think gusts in Kingston stay below 100. But that is not going to be the case in Montego Bay. Montego Bay is going to get the worst winds between Montego Bay and Kingston. That's for sure.
Dave, can you go to either the parent view of the hurricane model or even just the European and just kind of go to 500 millibars? There's a couple pretty good questions about like what is going to cause this to start moving to the north. And when does this cease to become a hurricane? Because obviously Jamaica is the story in the short term. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Cuba, the stepping stones, Cuba to the Bahamas, and then potentially Bermuda. All hurricanes, for the most part, their purpose is to take heat from the tropics and then transport them north, into the polar regions and the higher latitudes. There is a trough. So, hurricanes, if you think of them, they're just kind of they are dictated by the pattern around them and the steering flow around them. So what Dave is drawing here, a trough of lower pressure is kind of sinking south, our jet stream almost, if you will. That will change the directional flow at the steering level. For this case, in this case, this hurricane is very high because it's a vertically deep hurricane. And when I say that, I mean it reaches far up into the atmosphere. Will change the steering flow will change out of the southwest and the south-southwest, and that is what will have the system kind of go on a southwest to northeast trajectory. And then what you'll also notice, there's a couple things that fuel hurricane.
We can't hear you. What'd you do to your mic?
You hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now. Did your AirPod die?
No, long story. We'll talk about it after.
Your mic actually sounds a little bit better. Well done. And we lost you again. It's okay. I'll take over. So you got this big long wave trough that's moving off the eastern seaboard. If this was timed a little bit different, there were some model runs late last week on Wednesday and Thursday that had Melissa potentially taking a left-hand turn into the U.S., kind of what Sandy did back in 2012. But the high pressure system here is not well defined, especially at the surface. So it's going to keep it, as in Melissa, is going to keep getting carried to the northeast. Bermuda is going to have to watch this. There are hurricane warnings up in Cuba. There's a hurricane watch up in the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. This is not just a Jamaican issue. This is a Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, Turks and Caicos, southeastern Bahamas. This is a multi-country issue. We got you now, Garrett, I think?
Yeah, sorry. I had an alert sent to my phone, and my AirPods are attached to both at the same time, so it kind of disrupted us here. But there we go. Well, we'll figure this out here. But pretty sure you took care of the rest of that question, that line of questioning, correct?
Garrett, we got to take over. We can't. The echo's bad. We got to get Garrett a mic. We got to get Garrett a separate mic. Dwayne says Robot Garrett has arrived. He has. I'm in Spanish Town and it's getting windy now. Yeah, I mean, you look over my left shoulder, the Kingston Harbor camera has gotten a lot worse over the past couple of hours.
How do we sound now, Dave?
The echo is way worse. What a shame. What do you mean by hurricane force winds in Spanish Town? Was it like Beryl or worse? Honestly, I don't know what the winds got to in Spanish Town from Beryl. I'm gonna guess they were gonna be worse this time around. We can do some due diligence historical analysis on Hurricane Beryl. Garrett knows a lot about Hurricane Beryl too, living in Houston.
Oh yeah. How do I sound now?
Better. We might have something here. No?
There we go.
No, there's an echo. What a shame. So Beryl in Jamaica, the Greater Antilles. Do we have a number? Looks like it wasn't that bad. This is going to be much worse than Beryl in Jamaica. Going to make landfall tomorrow morning, likely mid-morning. Probably right around mid-morning. We'll call it 9 a.m. local time. Charlotte wants to know if there's any chance that it's going to drift west and not make a direct hit. Yesterday at this time, it did look like there was a chance that Melissa would just miss it to the east. But that is not the case. Every single computer model has Melissa making landfall somewhere on the western side of the island, probably between Savannah Lamar and Treasure Beach, somewhere in here, on that southwestern corner of the island. I think we're going to have Garrett leave and come back. Garrett, let's try your mic one more time.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Okay, wait. We might have something
I'll just keep
here.
talking and see what happens.
Okay, you're back. Let's not jinx it, but you're back. What do you want to talk about?
Need this mic here. need a new mic. We got thrown off, but thinking on our feet here.
Your mic is nervous.
No,
We got 1,000 people in here. I get it. The mic's nervous.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, the mic's nervous. We're not nervous. The mic's nervous, but
Correct. Electronics can get nervous, folks. I'm in
Yes.
Portmore,
Yeah, absolutely.
St. Catherine. We are getting rain now and a little wind, not too heavy. Yeah, this is just an appetizer to what's to come tonight into tomorrow morning. There are some real outer rain bands pushing in. I kind of wish this radar was a little transparent so we could see what parts of the island are getting the heaviest rain. It looks like anywhere on the southern coast, anywhere south of Mandeville, Tollgate, Maypen, Old Harbor, Spanish Town, Portmore, Kingston, all of these areas in the southern third of the island, if you will, getting rain and some wind. I should look and see if Kingston has like a live, I'm going to do this on a separate monitor. If we have a live wind METAR there. Let's see here. We'll take some more questions from the group chat. This is a group chat, right? Yeah. Ocho Rios, the rain is getting
comment
harder.
section, Dave. Come on, man.
Yeah, my apologies. The comment section. Ocho Rios, the rain is getting harder. Okay. You know, somebody mentioned this earthquake. There was an earthquake in the Lesser Antilles earlier this afternoon. It was like a 6.6 magnitude, I want to say. Yeah, it was out here east of Guadalupe. 6.5. Look at that. Let me move this over. 6.5 magnitude. I don't know if this was felt in Guadalupe. This is completely unrelated. It looks like it wouldn't have been felt that far west, so that's good. But yeah, it was interesting that there was an earthquake about 800 miles, give or take, east of where Melissa is right now. Raining in St. Catherine here in St. Anne, having mild rainfall. Yeah, Jason, it's not good. It is not good at all. It's really, Garrett, seems like every single year now there's a hurricane. I thought this year we were going to get out of this year without a major hurricane making landfall somewhere. Last year was Helene and Milton. The year before it was Ian. In 2021 it was Ida. In 22 it was Idalia. There's just so many names. There's so many storms making landfall every year that it's almost hard to keep track of.
Yeah, 2014 was probably the last season that we didn't have a significant hurricane hit somewhere, right? Joaquin really devastated the Central Bahamas in mid-20 or late season 2015. Obviously, 2016, you had Matthew that kind of trekked in a similar region, and then it's been every single year since then. This year was, like you said, were we going to escape with 2 Category 5s in a threatening position earlier in the season, just harmlessly going out to sea? Obviously, outside of our friends in Bermuda getting hit pretty good this year. But this is just like you said, every single year. This reminds me a lot of Milton last year, just in awe of the meteorological power of a system like this bearing down on a landmass. Nonetheless, I mean, it's been a decade of very strong storms, and a lot of that due to high oceanic heat content. The waters have been very warm in the Atlantic Basin and the Caribbean, so the fuel is there. It's a conditional threat. If you get a storm, and we said all year, right? If you could get a storm into this area, I mean, we're very lucky a storm didn't get into the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah.
Because if you could get one in here, this was going to happen. And unfortunately, it waited until the end of October, but it's happening.
This happens every year, right around this time of the year. The Caribbean is a bathtub. It's a hot tub, just about. You've got water temperatures in here over 30 Celsius, pushing 90 degrees, and Halloween is in 4 days. And not only is the surface, is there a train coming for your house, Garrett? Train stop. Not only this is sea surface temperature. If you look subsurface, sometimes you get really hot surface temperatures in the ocean, but then 20 feet below the surface, it cools down considerably. That's not the case down here. We talked about this a lot yesterday. If we had a storm here east of the Bahamas, even if the surface ocean water is warm, if a hurricane stays over this for more than a day, it's going to feel that cooler water below through what we call upwelling, and that's going to weaken the storm. Because of how slow Melissa's moving, if we didn't have the depth of the warm water that we do across the Caribbean, Melissa would not be a Cat 5 right now. It probably wouldn't even be a major hurricane. But here we are. It's 175 mile per hour, strongest hurricane this late in the year on record. Yeah, Earth Extreme with a couple comments about Jamaica. Those are the cameras we have behind us right now. I'm kind of watching them all on a separate tab over here. If one goes crazy, we'll pull it up full screen, especially tomorrow during landfall, as long as I'm sure some of these are not going to make it through the storm, some if not most of them. And then the other comment, I lost it here. The 37.
I see someone.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead. How's my echo, by the way?
Not bad. I think 1,300 people can deal with it. So
yeah,
this is just an incredible, mind-boggling coincidence. So 2025, back up 37 years ago was Gilbert, and then 37 years before that was Charlie in 1951. I don't know what it is with 37-year return periods for extreme major hurricane landfalls in Jamaica, but is there something new, supernatural at play here? You can draw your own conclusions on that.
We had someone say, ask, how's it going to be in St. Elizabeth near the Black River? That to me looks like a potential, like not to be hyperbolic, but kind of a ground zero, if you will, of where the system is going to be most impactful. Black River to Westmoreland, Savannah, Lamar, Little London, anywhere in those areas. So if you are in the St. Elizabeth area, you got to definitely get to higher ground. Don't necessarily know the local terrain. That looks like a marshy area just looking at satellite. Use this, the rest of this, probably the next 4 to 6 hours to get to a higher location. If you are in that area, that's, with that onshore flow, probably looking at a 10 to 20 foot storm surge. So if you're not at least at 20 feet elevation, I would look to try to find higher land if you're in the St. Elizabeth Black River area.
Somewhere between Savannah, Lamar, and Treasure Beach. I just lost my mouse pad here. Somewhere between Savannah, Lamar, and Treasure Beach is going to be ground zero. You're going to get 200 mile per hour wind gusts in the eye wall that just decimate, unfortunately. You're going to see apocalyptic pictures out of one of these towns, whether it's Treasure Beach, whether it's Black River, whether it's White House, and even just to the east of the eye wall, where you get some crazy storm surge, you're going to see very similar pictures of what looks like apocalypse.
Yeah.
In terms of where it's going to make landfall, the HAFS has it, where is that? Like right between White House and Black River, right?
Yep. Right in that area. And again, just the shape of the coastline there, kind of that funnel shape in what I believe is Black River Bay, if I am not mistaken. Yes. I would have to think, anywhere in this kind of marshy plain that you're pointing at, right, that you have pointed right here. I'm assuming that's probably the Black River. No, that's the Broad River, and where the Black River and Broad River converge, just that entire, regardless of track, that entire area will be submerged in water. And so if you are, zooming in on my map, I'm trying to find street names, but there are little villages right in this area. Get the higher ground immediately. Water is the biggest killer of these with these storms, and obviously the wind is terrifying. A lot of it is what the wind is blowing, in the air, and if there's not a ton of high vegetation, when you're in a safe space wind-wise, you usually end up being okay, but it's the water that is really the big concern. So, fresh water east side of the island, but when you're in the St. Elizabeth, Black River, Broad River Basin, that is where you're going to want to seek higher ground if you can do that.
From the ISS, you can kind of see it. There's the eye, or let me move it over here. There's the eye.
Wow.
Little view from space as of this morning. There was a question. Somebody's watching from Florida. Florida avoids a landfall this year, thankfully. Rocky Point, Clarendon, it's going to be bad. I mean, you name any. It's not like with severe weather, you got a line of storms. How bad is Indianapolis going to be? How bad is Fort Wayne going to be? Sometimes you're going to get big differences between 100 miles. That's not the case here. I mean, it's going to be a level of, do you see 10 out of 10 destruction or 8 out of 10 destruction? It's going to be destruction. It's just a matter of what level is that destruction. And even, I mentioned yesterday, a lot of concrete structures, which is great on Jamaica. I don't care how strong the concrete is. Wherever the storm makes landfall, wherever that eye wall comes ashore, wherever this core comes ashore, anything in its path is going to be decimated. Blessing is watching from the Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands not going to see, thanks to that shear that Garrett mentioned, all of these rain bands are on the east side of the storm. We do know for sure. You can actually see it shone on satellite right now, starting to nudge north. See those last few scans? It was about 16.2 degrees north. I can bring the lat long over there. You can see it jumping north there a little bit. So Treasure Beach could be ground zero. Even if the core doesn't make landfall in Treasure Beach, you're going to get some crazy 15, 20-foot storm surge. Jackie, unfortunately, people, evacuate. This is not like evacuating a U.S. storm. You can't just take I-95 or I-75 and drive north into Georgia. Jamaica's an island. The airports are closed. If you drive north from Kingston, you're going to hit the mountains. The mountains are going to see much stronger winds and much more rain than what Kingston or I'm really worried about Montego Bay. If the HAFS model, if the hurricane model here is right, and you get the eye wall to go directly over Montego Bay tomorrow afternoon, this is at 2 p.m. tomorrow, 1 p.m. local time, this is going to be catastrophic in Montego Bay.
Yeah. The best you can do right now is Ochos Rio to Port Antonio, if you're trying to get. But I mean, if you go back to the current radar, what's going on in the higher elevations, right? It's not. I'm sure that's not an easy drive over 3,000, 4,000 foot mountains in a hurricane. While the wind on the coast might be only blowing 20 to 30 right now, it could be blowing 50 to 60 up there. Those flight level winds that we see that are offshore, obviously, but the flight level winds that we see at 180 knots, 190 knots, that's getting up towards the higher elevations of the island. And so can you make that drive right now? I don't know, but if you are on the south side, if you are in St. Elizabeth, if you're in May Pen to Kingston, and you do want to try to get to an area that would be relatively safer, it's Ochos Rio to Port Antonio, I would say.
You sent me this. I mean, look how fast it's spinning. This is a time lapse, but still.
And what's wild is that the
buzzsaws.
You could stand on one side of the eye wall and see across to the other side. Yeah, I mean,
correct.
it's a tight spiral.
It goes back to this. I mean, you could literally see, like, they're on one side of the eye, and you can see. I mean, that's probably 9-10 miles to the opposite side there.
That is a you grow up loving the weather. I'm sure you have too, Dave. First thing I remember having a passion for, you just watch it and I could stare at that all day. I mean, it's just like, it's unbelievable what the power of, the atmosphere and nature can do. Seeing the stadium effect, seeing the meteorological process play out. And then, the obviously the awesome power. And when I say awesome, I mean, just kind of in awe of the power that these things generate, being in the path of one of these and having, done so willingly, I guess, before. It's a scary thing because there's just no control. That's why you heed the warnings, the local warnings that you get days in advance, and just, you rather be safe than sorry. Because when you get into one of these, you are very powerless. There's nothing you can do to avoid what's coming. So if you are, like you said, if you're Savannah, Lamar, Black River, St. Elizabeth, you got to heed the local advice and warnings and the local plan that is put in place there.
Like this guy, I actually was trying to remember the guy I saw this morning boasting about the fact that he was in Treasure Beach. I don't know if you can survive this. Like, can you survive in Treasure Beach? I don't know. I don't care if you're 30 feet above sea level. If you've got winds to 150 miles an hour and a 20-foot storm surge, some people will do whatever they want to do, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say on that.
Would be remiss, Dave, kind of almost an hour in. You see the kind of the QR code and the logo bottom left. In this entire venture, with Flash and what we do, and our goal is safety for people who are in severe weather and significant weather, whether it's hurricanes, whether it's tornadoes in the spring in the United States, whether it's tornadoes in the eastern side of the system that's going to impact Kingston and the eastern part of the island. We're trying to make sure people are aware of what is coming. And so at Flash AI, we have our app. Download it. Google Play, the iPhone App Store. We're currently, a lot of our data is focused in the United States, but this will be global, worldwide data, and kind of the standard bearer for this. So when the next system comes, you're able to kind of see some of these images that we're producing for you here, in real time when we're not live, and always kind of be aware of what's coming. And so, check that out. You would definitely obviously we'd recommend it from our end, but can say objectively it's probably one of the better weather informational tools you can have. And so you'd be able to have seen kind of in our Futurecast radar days out a storm moving through the Caribbean even before we started live streaming. So next time that QR code pops up, take a look at that, or just search Flash AI in the Google Play or Apple stores.
South Africa here. Yeah, Garrett. We had this storm in our 10-day future radar on the app for days. Somebody's saying it's not available in my country. What country are you in, Sandy? Thanks for the coverage, being aware and scared. We're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to tell you this is going to be the worst storm in modern history for Jamaica. You can call it whatever it is, but that's just a fact. There's never been a storm this strong to hit Jamaica in modern times. And it's going to be bad. There's going to be deaths. There's going to be destruction. There's going to be catastrophic levels of destruction. That's for sure. What was this? Somebody asked about St. Catherine. St. Catherine's going to be bad. You could name just about any parish. Some are going to be, as we mentioned, worse than others. 10 out of 10 destruction versus 8 out of 10. I would put anywhere in this kind of southwestern half of the island in a 10 out of 10 destruction zone. It's going to be really bad. It's going to be as bad as it can probably be, especially where that eye wall is. Garrett ferociously types away. Garrett, I got to mute you. Sorry.
I'm sorry, brother. Sorry about that. Always working. Always be working.
Working hard, yeah.
Making sure that our app will be as efficient for people internationally as possible.
Did this storm come from the coast of Africa? It did. Yeah, almost 2 weeks ago.
Which is rare for this time of year.
Very rare, yeah. I'll zoom out here. It went from the Cape Verde Islands, slow, kind of set up shop here in the Eastern Caribbean for a bit, and then got itself together south of the Dominican. It looked like it might turn towards Haiti. It didn't. sat here, and now it's going to hit Jamaica tomorrow. So a 2-week trip across about 2,500 miles climaxes in a Jamaican landfall tomorrow. Eastern part of the
Dave,
island. Go ahead, Garrett.
How long are we up on the live stream today?
Until I have to eat? No. A while.
Yeah.
Probably at least until 6, at least another few hours. Garrett, I'm sure you got stuff to do. Yeah, Veronica, the guy can write. He's a better typer than I am. What time do you think you're going to head out, Garrett?
I'd say I probably have a another 15 minutes here, probably an hour long stint here, but just getting Dave is our we co-hosted, but Dave's the main show here, and so if you were on later, you kind of set those terms. I'd hop back on after I finish some other duties, but we're kind of getting into crunch time here, so
yeah.
We obviously take the conversation on that offline, but you're going to be online for a while, so
we'll be online. Where will it make landfall? At first they were saying Clarendon, but I heard it shifted. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit west of Clarendon. It's going to be somewhere, as I zoom back into Jamaica, likely somewhere between Savannah, Lamar, and Treasure Beach, maybe Flagaman. Either the Westmoreland Parish or the St. Elizabeth Parish. Those two parishes will be the worst in terms of impacts. Traveling Joe's in the house. What's going on, Joe, as we approach almost 2,000 live viewers, that's for sure. Has it started to turn north? It has, yeah. If you look at the satellite loop, watch this eye, watch it nudging north as it's gaining latitude, close to 17 degrees north latitude. All of the computer model guidance in very strong agreement of a landfall somewhere on the southwestern edge of the island of Jamaica. I've been waiting, Garrett, to see if there's going to be another Hurricane Hunter flight. They might have said enough of this danger after they tried to penetrate the eye earlier and it was too strong, and they said, nope, we're going to turn around. Is there
50
another
minutes from now.
Oh, I see it right. Yep, there it is.
Yeah,
There's 2 flights
minutes.
going. There's an Air Force flight and a NOAA flight both going. I don't know if I
Yeah,
want
and
to be on those flights right now.
Yeah, and this is what's really cool from our partner, CyclonicWx. Alex Boreham does a really good job. This has updated during the course of this hurricane, because obviously there's been so many people wanting to look at the recon data. You used to have to go in and kind of select the next mission. Now we have it kind of posted in bold. Just looking at the same thing on my own computer. 52 minutes to the next flight. It is amazing work what these hurricane hunters do, giving this real-time information. It's vital to knowing the strength and trends. Will be very interesting to see what the trends of this hurricane as it now is. You could start to clearly see it's making its move north. The next 12 to 24 hours will be very important. And getting this data is great. And so to be able to have sites that are so organized and clear to make it available to see this is pretty awesome.
Jonathan, I just put the link in the chat. We use CyclonicWx. He's Alex Boreham, one of our partners for this hurricane season. He's got a great website here. There's a couple different websites. You'll go to the top here and you'll go to recon data. It's the 4th tab over. You can't see it's not what I want to move. You'll see current storm, SATRAD, model data, and recon data, and that is what we're looking at now. Nordia, we thought there was a chance of it missing Jamaica, but that chance is gone. We had one hurricane model run yesterday. Maybe I can pull it up. No, I can't. It's not going to let me go back that far. This model run yesterday had it missing the island. It had the eye out here to the west of Negril. But now, as you can see, it shifted back to the east. And every single, the H-Wharf, the H-Mon, it's actually kind of crazy and borderline scary, the agreement between every single hurricane model making a landfall within about a 5 to 10 mile radius of White House and Black River. Somewhere down here is where it looks like landfall is going to be.
Thank you, everybody on here. The questions, very helpful. Obviously there's potentially close to 1,000 people on the island who are watching the stream. And so, continuing to ask questions, which I'm sure other people have those same questions if you're asking it in the area. And so, areas like Old Harbor and St. Andrews, and knowing where the safest place relative to the island to be, those questions are important. So, really good on everybody kind of participating, keeping it, obviously focused on the potential we have here for the island. If there are people in the Bahamas, people on the island of Bermuda, people in Cuba, the eastern portions of the island, if there are any people there with questions, we're obviously monitoring this. The impacts in the United States, especially New England, whether direct or indirect from the system, we'll continue to. We're monitoring all fronts, is what I'm saying. So the questions are helpful as we go forward.
This is the latest Google DeepMind model, as we are about an hour and 49 minutes away from the next NHC advisory. There is one 890 member in there. It looks like that's 893, Garrett. I can't really tell what that number is. War, you could say the safest place to be is off the island, but you can't get off the island now. The airports are closed. If you want to take a boat off the North Shore, I'm sure those waves are at least 5 feet, and they're about to be 20 feet in the next several hours. So Tanya's watching from Guantanamo Bay. We haven't really talked about Cuba that much, but Cuba's going to get hit tomorrow, late tomorrow, and into Monday morning. If we show you the cone from the Hurricane Center, there is a hurricane warning up for the eastern quarter of the island of Cuba. It's going to be a major hurricane, a Category 3 hurricane, when it makes landfall in Cuba, probably overnight, early Wednesday morning, and then it'll leave Cuba about sunrise Wednesday morning, about 8 a.m., and then impact the Bahamas and even the far western Turks and Caicos, where there are hurricane watches up there for Wednesday. And then it's crazy, Bermuda is right in the center of this cone. So you've got Jamaica, Cuba, the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, and Bermuda, all at play of seeing significant impacts from Melissa. You will, somebody asked, can you see the sky from the ground in the eye? And I remember, I'll never forget the video that I think it was Josh Morgan tweeted when he was chasing Dorian in Marsh Harbor in the Bahamas in 2019. It was the most blue sky I've ever seen in the heart of the eye. I'm sure there's going to be videos that come out tomorrow, or, well, it may not even be tomorrow if they lose cell service and if they lose communications and everything else. There's going to be videos that show a perfect blue sky from the middle of the eye. So, now, Dean, this forecast is what we call baked in. Its chances of not strengthening, its chances of missing, those are gone. This is not a forecast stream. This is really talk about an impact stream, because we've got the flour, we've got the sprinkles, we've got the icing, we've got everything. This forecast is baked and it's in the oven right now. We're not in the prepping stages anymore.
We have a question for Hanover, Jamaica, which is west of, right on the coast west of Montego Bay. You have that potential of seeing that eye go right over your head. So if you're in Hanover, you're very likely going to get a northerly flow as the hurricane goes by. So being nowhere near the coastline, ideally, and you do have some time to get east if you can, but I would hunker down, make sure you are at least 20 to 25 feet above sea level, be in a pretty safe location when it comes to an infrastructure, and just hunker down. So got about 18 to 20 hours until the worst of the system will be over your head. But you're looking at this model image right here that Dave has put up. You're looking at gusts 100, 120, 130 miles per hour right in that area.
And both the HAFS A and HAFS B models, plus the HWRF, plus the HBON, all four high-resolution hurricane models bring the eye of the hurricane directly over Montego Bay tomorrow afternoon. That is a horrendous situation, because you're going to get wind speeds over 120 miles per hour. And then we mentioned this earlier, as the hurricane leaves the island, you're going to get reverse storm surge. See all these stream lines, these wind lines pushing in from north to south? That's going to push ocean water into Montego Bay after the storm leaves the island. So even as the winds subside, the storm surge threat on the northern side of the island, especially the northwestern quadrant, is actually going to go up as the eye makes its way towards Cuba. Is that coffee, Garrett? I might need a coffee.
Yeah, just trying to keep the mind sharp, as you know.
Indeed.
A couple questions about St. Andrew, St. Thomas. These are areas that are very high elevation, already getting some reports. S. Campbell, St. Anne is very windy. A lot of that is because you are in generally a higher elevation. Locally higher ground. Can't stress that enough.
You're going full screen, Garrett. I got to pull something up here.
Okay. Locally higher ground is the most important message I would have for anybody who is in a higher elevation area. We have a lot of precedent from this and something similar that happened in the United States with Hurricane Helene last year, where if you were in the valleys near the river basins, near the riverbeds, that is where the most loss of life was, the most loss of property, and unfortunately, that's where a lot of towns and streets reside. They're right along the rivers because it's the path of least resistance. So if you're in these areas or whatever area that you're in, making sure you're going to know your locality better than Dave and I ever could.
Exactly.
Knowing where the locally higher ground is. Obviously, if you're in the mountains, it's higher than the ocean. So like you think you might be okay. But if you're only 5 feet above a riverbed, that riverbed could come up 15, 20 feet as you have 35 inches of rain. So getting to a safer location, if you know of any, infrastructure, hotels, inns, whatever it might be, away from these localized low areas, that is where you need to be, anywhere of elevation. You're not going to have to worry about the saltwater flooding, but the freshwater flooding will be a significant concern in these areas.
Speaking of freshwater flooding, here you go. In Port Royal, which is a part of Kingston. I looked at Port Royal on a map yesterday. Now I can't remember where it is. Anyways, I bet it's close to the coast. What was this? Despite a mandatory evacuation order, like nobody left. Only one person boarded an evac bus on Sunday. To be fair, I don't know where they would have evacuated to. But this is an outer rain band flooding a street. I mean, this street is going to get under, there might be 5 feet of water on this street by the time it really, here's another good video. I'll pull it up here.
And then after this, Dave, can you go back to kind of an island-wide view?
Yeah.
And pull out the cursor and draw kind of where you kind of in lines where you think the worst of the wind gusts will be. We're getting a lot of questions about maximum winds. Everybody sees 175 mile per hour sustained winds, Category 5. Not the entire island is going to see that if you're just tuning in. So just kind of marking, 40 to 50 on the eastern end, 50 to 70. Kingston probably 50 to 75, and then where it'll be. And so
these are wind gusts. Yeah.
Wind gust. Yep. Take it away.
So Kingston is here. There's going to be a big difference between the gusts that Montego Bay sees and the wind gusts that Kingston sees. In this specific snapshot of, 10 a.m. local time tomorrow, you've got a 58 mile per hour wind gust in Kingston and a 145 mile per hour wind gust, or 185 kilometers per hour wind gust in Montego Bay. The storm is small enough, you can really see this well on radar. The core of the storm is strong enough that the most intense winds are going to be confined to about 40 miles, I would say, to either side of the center of the storm, maybe even 30 miles left or right of the eye wall, or of the eye, I should say, the precise center of the storm. So the most intense winds are going to be confined in a pretty narrow margin. I don't know exactly how, if we measured from Negril to, I don't know what town is that on the borders of St. Anne and Trelawney Parish. I don't know how far it is from Negril to Alberttown. Is that 80 miles? Maybe 70 miles? So yeah, 30 to 40 miles on the west and the east side is where the most intense winds are going to be. The lightest winds, if you will be way east. Morant Bay, Duckenfield, Boston Bay. This is very not inhabited over here, but that's also where the highest rain will likely fall east of the center. So
I'm gonna have to make this perfectly clear,
okay,
so that
please
nobody
do.
leaves when I leave.
Yes.
I will have to jump here,
Okay.
but Dave is here and staying with you.
Yeah.
And my last message would be, this is I think some of the best information you get a lot of U.S. centered forecasting, U.S. centered information. We are locked in on these northern Caribbean islands, Jamaica, Eastern Cuba, and then obviously into the Southwest Atlantic. So continue to stay with us. Subscribe, like and subscribe to the channel. Not obviously for any purposes other than being notified of what's coming. We're obviously going to be here the rest of the day.
I'm not getting off,
Dave
Noria. I'm not getting off.
Yeah.
Garrett's getting
Yeah,
off.
David,
I am not. We'll be here in a
I'm
few
getting
hours.
off for a bit, but
I see
Dave
that
is
concurrent
staying.
number
Let's
dropping.
make
We're
it
not
clear.
leaving. We're not
I
leaving.
know we're not. Yeah,
It's
I don't
because
know
you're
why.
taking a long
Maybe-
time to get out of here, Garrett. I should just kick you out. I'm just kidding.
No, you should kick me out. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to ease my way. Maybe I just need to Irish goodbye this from here on out,
You might
and just
need
say
to.
my feed was cut. That might be what it is. So, but relaying the message of just staying in here, staying tuned in. Tell your friends, hey,
Yeah.
this is the channel that's locked into this. And so,
Yes, sir.
if Dave is still on later, I will jump on later. Otherwise, we will figure out the best way to get me off of this channel from here on out, so we don't lose other people. So,
Okay.
Dave.
Good. We'll see you. Don't go too far, though. All right. There he goes. He's out. We're still here. Goodbye to Garrett, but I am Dave, and I'm still here, and we're going to take your comments and questions on the Eras. Melissa's a Category 5. The most intense storm this late in the season on record. We'll just take this full real quick. Both pictures over my shoulder are from Sea Jamaica. We have donated to them. Marvin, I guess is this guy's name. He's done an incredible job with giving the public live views of Melissa, of its impact on Jamaica. The Kingston Harbor over my left shoulder, and then this is my left shoulder, right? Yeah. And then over my right shoulder is a cycling batch of cameras that Marvin has put together. Again, if you just want to go watch cameras, he's got a whole YouTube channel set up with just static cameras rotating, but we're here to provide analysis to help the folks in Jamaica stay safe and what's going to be the most catastrophic storm to hit Jamaica in modern history. As I bring the chat back up here, we lost about 150 folks, but I'm not going anywhere. We're here to, again, keep people safe. So back to the data here in the top left, you've got the latest info for the storm, max winds, current central pressure. The lower that central pressure number is, which right now it's 906, the lower that number is, the stronger the storm. There's an inverse relationship between pressure and wind speed. The next NHC advisory is in 97 minutes, an hour and 37 minutes away. Usually they drop that a little bit before 5 o'clock Eastern time, probably around 4:45. And I think we're going to see the movement start to change a little bit. It is now taking a bit of a northwesterly track here. You can really see that as the satellite moves on me once again. It is not really moving west-northwest anymore. It's now moving more northwesterly, and then it's going to move north, and then it's going to move northeast by probably sunset tonight. Liz Small is watching from Kingston. I kind of want to know where everybody's watching from. We had that poll. About 2,000 votes are in. Are you watching from Jamaica? It's about 50-50 if you're watching from Jamaica or not. About 2,500 total viewers in here. What about Trelawney? We could talk about Trelawney. Part of the eye wall is likely going to go through Trelawney. I would say the further west that you are within the Trelawney parish, the worst impacts you can expect. I would say Saltmarsh, Falmouth, likely going to see worst impacts in a place like Rio Bueno or Jacksontown, somewhere further to the east. These cameras are going to be interesting to watch tomorrow. I mean, the Kingston Harbor camera looks even pretty interesting right now. I got some white caps starting to form as well. Some folks watching from the UK. This storm is going to bring some really windy conditions to the UK this coming weekend into the first part of next week, but we are not talking about a potential hurricane, of course, hitting the UK, because that is way too far north, at least this late in the year. Watching from Spanish Town, St. Thomas. From Canada, your father's in Mandeville. Hopefully he's taking shelter. Mandeville is going to get some pretty intense wind. Although I remember Garrett and I talked yesterday about Mandeville and how it might be one of the better spots to be inland. I'm not sure what the mountain runoff is going to be. That's really the most concerning part about this, is that you're going to get so much rain to fall in the mountains. You always get more rain to fall in higher elevations, and that has to go somewhere, like we saw last year with Hurricane Helene. We're going to get the TikTok live stream going here as everything starts to flicker on me in the background. Good, there we go. We're going to get TikTok going here, get words spread out to not just YouTube. We appreciate all 2,377 folks in here watching from Kingston, New York, the Cayman Islands, Trinidad, and Tobago. Brazil is here. Brazil is here as we bring the TikTok over here. And okay, good. We will stop the virtual camera. We're going to do that. Take some more comments and questions from folks. Mississippi is here. Barbados, you got hit by Hurricane Beryl pretty bad last year. That was a really bad storm in Barbados. All right, why is this doing this? Gold Coast, Australia is here. Texas is here. I wonder where we're in Texas. New Jersey. Stay safe, Jamaica. Yeah, isn't that the truth? This is not going to be a good storm for Jamaica at all. There is no doubt about that. And that's the most unfortunate part about this. There we go. Okay, we finally got the TikTok. There we go. I'll tell you what, this app sometimes. Not the YouTube app, the TikTok app. Let's go back, show you the satellite. Watching from Florida. Jordan is in Florida. Where in Florida are you watching from? Conditions are getting worse in Mandeville. That's not good there. Let's make this a little bit bigger. All right, let's throw in the hurricane. All right, we'll go live on TikTok as well. Let's get the chat off of that screen. Watching from Jamaica, watching from Georgia. My wife is from Hanover, Jamaica. I'm from Seattle, Washington, watching from the parish of St. Anne. I will say, I think we talked about this earlier, I think St. Anne is going to be one of the parishes that probably fares the best, if you want to call it that, from this hurricane. I think the further north, and especially northeast you are, away from the mountains, is probably going to be where the least amount of impacts are. If you go further northeast away from both the strongest winds, which will be on the southern, especially southwestern parts of the island. Watching from Poland. Wow, we got some Poland folks in here, out of England folks in here. As we are watching Melissa to make landfall tomorrow morning, likely 9 or 10 o'clock local time in Jamaica. Take about 4 to 5, probably 5 hours to make its way totally across the island. And I wasn't too concerned about this yesterday, but Montego Bay, I mean, you get this is 104 mile per hour wind gusts, but I'm sure you could have some wind gusts even higher than that in the 120, 130 range for top winds. Watching from New York, family in Negril praying for them. Yeah, Negril's going to get hit hard, especially with wind. The rain is not going to be that bad in Negril, but you could get some really intense wind on that western end of the island. Watching from Walla Walla, Washington. Cromwell, where are you? Saying no breeze blowing in west. No breeze? None? Abby's watching from Florida. We got the Philippines in here. The Flash app, our app is available to download in Jamaica. I'm learning that now, which is good. And some other countries, especially in the Caribbean. It's available on Android if you have an Android or Google Play phone in the Caribbean. Watching from Brazil. We'll answer some questions. We've got folks all over the world. Watching from Oman. Wow. Literally the entire, I think just about every continent. If we get somebody in here from Antarctica, we might literally have every continent. No breeze in Montego Bay for now. It's going to be really bad in Montego Bay tomorrow, especially the wind. We talked about this. Here's Montego Bay, wind gust over 100 miles per hour, but because of the way hurricanes do their winds counterclockwise, you're going to get storm surge on the back side of Melissa as it moves over the island and heads towards Cuba. As it heads northeast, you're going to get this reverse storm surge, water pushing into Montego Bay after it makes landfall and after it even leaves the island as it moves northeast. Will Kingston get a lot of wind? We'll say peak gusts in Kingston up to 90 to 100 miles per hour. The wind will be worse in Montego Bay than it will in Kingston. That is a virtual certainty at this point. And you see where this eye wall is. Look at that band of hot reds right around the center, right there. Let me get a loop that doesn't. Let's get it to stop. No. See, I want you to stop. All right, I'm going to have to hold the mouse here, but you see those really, really hot reds around that tiny little pinhole eye. That is where we have winds upwards of 180 miles per hour right now. Indiana, Australia. How about Australia? Well, luckily there's going to be no hurricane in Australia. We can say that. Yeah, Melissa, as you see, that we got satellite over here in the bottom left-hand corner. We've got radar up there. The radar loop that's actually playing on the screen right now is what is above my head as well. We're watching the hurricane hunters as well. They are, I want recon data, thank you. They're going to depart. I'm not sure where they're departing from. I don't know if they're leaving from Florida or if they're leaving from somewhere in the Caribbean. They're going to depart in about 28 minutes to head towards Melissa, and that is going to be one crazy bumpy ride. Nick in the TikTok wants to know, it's kind of crazy. We've got about 2,300 people in YouTube and about 10 people on TikTok, but we just started a TikTok stream. Will this impact the East Coast of the U.S.? No. High winds, high surf, I should say, some waves. That's going to be the only impact. I am in North Carolina, Nordy. I'm in North Carolina. Rhonda's in Belize. Lori is in Pennsylvania. Shoya is in the St. Andrew Parish in Jamaica. Family is in Harbor View. And what's the other? Bull Bay. I think is Bull Bay over here? I literally just saw Bull Bay. There's Buff Bay. Not Bull Bay, though. Oh, Bull Bay is down. I'll tell you what, if they are in Bull Bay right now, they need to get away from the coast. They need to get at least 15 feet above sea level because this is not going to be a safe place to be. You're going to get water pushed inland by the hurricane, especially right here along the coast. Hopefully there's some higher ground further to the north as you head up. What road is this? Pete Bogle Highway as you head up into St. Thomas Parish or further to the north, further into St. Andrew Parish. Some more questions on how bad can the impact be in Ocho Rios. I actually think Ocho Rios might be one of the cities hit the least. That's not to say there's not going to be impact. You're still talking an 8 out of 10 impact, but you're probably not going to get the storm surge in Ocho Rios. You're not going to get the worst winds. You're still going to have winds upwards of 100 miles per hour, but you're not going to get as much rain. You're not going to get as much surge as places like the highest rainfall totals will probably be, actually, I don't say probably, I'll just show you the map. Highest rainfall totals, they've actually changed this quite substantially. This is rain still to come. This does not include rain that has already fallen. The most rain still to come is going to be over the central portion of the island. There's still been a ton of rain that has fallen in the eastern part of the island, but you're still talking 20 to 30 inches of rain still to come in that center kind of heart of the island. Yeah, Daryl, this is not a false alarm situation at all. That's for sure. How bad will the impact be for middle quarters in St. Elizabeth? That's a town I haven't heard yet. Ooh, yeah, this is going to be bad. You're going to get some extreme wind in middle quarters. The worst wind from Melissa is going to be, actually, it's going to be even wider than that. Let me zoom this out. It's going to be right in here. Kind of the western third of the island. That's going to be where the worst winds are. The western third of the island. St. Mary Parish is probably going to be the parish that has the least amount of impacts. Again, you're still talking 8 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10 impacts. Katrina was a Cat 3 at landfall. Well, Katrina was also about 4 times as big of a system as what Melissa is. It's not all about category. It's a lot about category. But if it is, it's definitely a good amount about category. But it's also how big the storm is, especially when you're talking about storm surge. I want the long range here. There we go. Yeah, Cat 3 is still a major hurricane. Absolutely nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, Beryl was, I think, a high-end, in terms of the impacts on Jamaica, a high-end tropical storm and still had impacts. And you're talking about this, Melissa, is the strongest storm this late in the season on record. It's crazy. In the Atlantic, that is. Love is watching both on the TikTok and the YouTube. That's dedication. We appreciate that. I need to change that a little bit. There we go. Let's center that. Better. Kelly with a follow on TikTok. Thank you. How bad is it going to be in Morant Bay, St. Thomas? Let's look at Morant Bay. I don't need this headset on anymore. I did this yesterday. I just kept it on for like an extra half hour for no reason. No reason at all. Morant Bay right on the coast. You're going to get some sort of storm surge, probably 5 to 10 feet of storm surge. Find some higher ground, but I'm sure that you're going to have some crazy water running down the Blue Mountain, like Blue Mountain Peak. You're going to get some crazy rainfall to just run down these mountains. I think it's just one Blue Mountain, just one mountain, but the runoff off of Blue Mountain is just going to be insane. Hurricane Hunter's taking off in 20 minutes. This is going to be probably the most interesting flight for the Hurricane Hunter so far. I want to look for some interesting more video on Twitter as well. We'll keep an eye on Twitter. The key messages, we haven't talked about this yet. I think this is a good time to bring up some of the key messages from the Hurricane Center. This was updated at 11 a.m. this morning Eastern time, so what is that, 4.5 hours ago. Do not venture out of your safe shelter. Catastrophic, life-threatening flash flooding, numerous landslides, likely today through Thursday. These winds in the eye wall, which will have wind gusts potentially over 200 miles per hour. Total structural failure. You're talking even concrete structures could fail, especially in the higher elevations. The higher elevation you go, the higher the winds actually go up. You could see a 10% jump in the wind speeds if you go up even a couple hundred feet. Extensive infrastructural damage, long-lasting power, comms outages, and communities isolated, and then the entire southern coast, especially west of this kind of inlet right here, west of Lioneltown, we'll call it kind Clarendon and west, there's going to be major storm surge. Major storm surge. Kingston is going to be spared of the worst winds. Kingston will not get the worst winds. That is the good news. But we're still expecting a couple feet of rain. I almost said snow. A couple feet of rain in Kingston. The rain is starting slightly now in Falmouth. What time can Kingston expect the strongest winds? Let's see when Kingston will have. Probably mid to late morning tomorrow. This is 10 a.m. local time. But the wind speeds in Montego Bay are going to be probably double of what we see, maybe even close to triple, especially the wind gusts of what we see in Kingston. St. Anne Parish will probably be spared. Again, if you want to use it, if you want to call it spared, we'll probably have the least amount of damage out of all the parishes. Ocho Rios, I don't know the geography that I've never been to Jamaica, but if I'm looking at the map and trying to pick out where I would want to, quote unquote, ride this storm out if I'm not a psycho storm chaser that wants to see the worst of it, I'd pick like Tower Isle, I'd pick Ocho Rios, I'd pick somewhere probably in the northeastern corner of the island because the winds are not going to be the strongest there. You're not going to get the storm surge. You're going to get a ton of rain. You can't avoid a ton of rain, but the combination of not much surge and not the strongest winds would make me pick the northeastern corner of the island. Why is this storm moving so slow? Yeah, we can talk about that. So if we go back to yesterday's European model run, the reason it's been moving so slow the past few days, you've got an area of high pressure in the mid-levels of the atmosphere over the Yucatan Peninsula, and you've got a weaker area of high pressure out near the Leeward Islands. Melissa is stuck right in the middle of these two steering currents. There was not a whole lot of upper-level support or not a whole lot of motion felt by either of these two ridges of high pressure to make it want to move anywhere. But over the past, and really over the next couple of days, this ridge weakens, which makes it wants to go a little bit to the west towards Central America, towards Mexico. It feels the pull of this one, wanting to move east to west a little bit stronger. But the reason it wants to move north is what's happening over the United States. You've got an area of low pressure across the Arkansas, Mississippi Valley area. Diving down to the south, you see these brown colors starting to connect here between Melissa and this trough across the U.S. Anytime you get a trough to the north, a hurricane wants to follow it, and that's why you get this northeastward motion. Another area of low pressure forms across the northern plains in the U.S., and as that dives down and Melissa feels it even stronger, there's Melissa. Here's the trough across the country. As these get closer to each other, Melissa wants to move faster, and it guides it basically in paralleling the east coast, moving off to the northeast. So it's everything around Melissa that wants it to move slower the past couple of days, and now to the northeast. Frank is really wanting to know about Westmoreland. That's the 5th time he's asked. 6th time. 7th. 8th. 9th. 10th. 11th. He's asked a lot. He wants to know about Westmoreland. Is that a parish? Yeah. Oh, it's the parish that's probably going to get hit the worst. You're going to have the worst winds in the Westmoreland parish. The worst winds will be in Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. Daniel wants to know, do you think people will be able to travel? Is that from Connecticut? Like from Connecticut to Jamaica on No. There's not going to be flights to Jamaica for a couple days, at least, maybe even longer. Kingston winds up to 90. Rain, couple feet of rain. But I think Montego Bay is going to get hit worse than than Kingston. Yeah, right around Black River. It's probably going to make landfall. Let me get Westmoreland out of here. I think it's going to make landfall between Black River and White House, I would say, in this general area. Yeah, airports are closed. Nobody's going to be spared. Everybody on the island is going to be hit in some way, shape, or form. It's just a matter of how hard certain parishes will be hit. Ethan Chung really wants to know about St. Anne. You could make an argument of St. Anne or St. Mary having the best outcome here. I would pick either St. Anne or St. Mary's Parish, St. Mary Parish, as the two likely to have the best outcome, because the worst winds should stay in or west of the Trelawney Parish. I think the western half of St. Anne Parish could get hit pretty hard. Anything west of T3, I guess this highway is, Highway 2000. Somebody said I should visit after this is over, and I'd love to. The airports are closed. The airports are closed. They closed, I think, yesterday? Or did they close Saturday? I forget. Well, Daniel, there's a recon flight on the way right now, or about to be. He's going to leave. He is in the plane. Is going to leave in 13 minutes, so we'll find out shortly thereafter, once the plane departs and arrives on scene, if you will, how strong the winds are. They could be stronger than what they are right now. I mean, if you look at this satellite image, that speaks for itself right there. That image right there speaks for itself. Manchester. Nobody, no, Studio, we already answered your question. There's nobody that's going to be spared on the island of Jamaica. Some areas are going to be hit worse than others, but there's not anywhere on the island that's going to be spared. Manchester Parish, I mean, the impacts are going to be pretty bad here, especially along the coast. You're going to get some big-time storm surge here along the coast. Long Bay Beach is going to be, you're going to have water well inland. I think the topography here, yeah, you're going to have water that probably goes well inland here. Because the hurricane makes landfall here, you've got tons of wind pushing water inland along this entire southern shore. It probably won't be as bad east of this kind of inlet, or the kind of the jet out there, right, of whatever that is. To be quite honest, I don't know what that is. What is this? Portland Cottage? Sure. East of Portland Point, the storm surge will probably not be as bad, but anywhere along the southern coast is going to be hit pretty hard. This video we showed earlier, I'm going to show it again, is just insane. This is from the eye. This is hurricane hunters flying into the storm. Brave souls, number one. Number two, in the eye, it's blue skies. Completely blue skies. And you've got this stadium effect of the eye wall around the eye. Of course, the eye wall is where the strongest winds are in the storm. Just crazy video here. Crazy video. There's the Jamaican radar in Kingston. You can see the storm starting to move northwest in those last couple of scans. Watch this jump. There it is. There's the move northwest. Then it's going to move north, and then it's going to move northeast. It's starting that kind of right-hand turn right now. Yeah, what a plane the C-130 is right. Let's show some other good video here. This is good here too. Lightning in the eye wall, where the strongest thunderstorms are in the eye wall. There's Jamaica right there, of course. This is overnight, but the global lightning mapper picking up all of the strikes in both the outer rain bands and in the eye wall. Depends where you are in Westmoreland. Trelawney Parish. Yeah, I had a college friend in Jamaica for a wedding over the weekend. I think they moved their flight out, but crazy. Would really like to watch Monday Night Football tonight. I hope the internet. Are you in Jamaica, Gideon? You want to watch Monday Night Football from Jamaica? St. Thomas, I forget where which parish St. Thomas is. Is that where Kingston is? No. Oh, it's southeast. You're going to get some pretty extreme rain, flooding rains in the southeastern part of the island, especially off of Blue Mountain. All that rain's going to come running down the mountain slopes. Okay, Gideon. Hey. Football, I guess football sometimes comes first, right? Melody, you got it. We're looking for, this is kind of a forecast, kind of impact stream ahead of tomorrow, as our YouTube stream is. See, Jamaica is back after a quick absence. There we go. If you're not subscribed already on YouTube, I would love you to drop us a sub. Is that how you call it? We'll cover worldwide weather events, especially the most extreme weather events in especially America, but anywhere in North America, as we are watching here in the Caribbean. Mandeville's still not that bad. Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, so Anthony, there could be some tornadoes that spawn in the eastern part of the storm. When we see all of these cells in the eastern side of the storm tonight, this is about 10 p.m. local time tonight, all of these little cells could produce tornadoes because of all the spin associated with Melissa. And even these could too. Tornadoes are always a threat on the eastern side of a landfalling system. You got it, Tracy. What's this video look like? I'm not going to turn the sound on this video, but you got trees down already in Jamaica. And the first comment is, this is nothing compared to what's coming. That is correct. That is correct. Storm surge in St. Catherine. I really should have all these parishes memorized by now. There will be storm surge, yeah, along the southern coast. It won't be as bad as further west towards St. Elizabeth Parish, and especially the storm surge will be the worst in Westmoreland Parish. The surge will be the worst in both Westmoreland Parish and in St. Elizabeth. They do spin the other way in the southern hemisphere. That they do, Ryan. They do. What should we look at next here? We got the next Hurricane Center advisory in about an hour. They usually come out before 5 p.m. Yeah, our thoughts and prayers with Jamaica, Mac. There's no doubt about that. Old Harbor? Old Harbor is going to get hit pretty hard. I'm not sure how far inland the storm surge is going to get. Like, I don't think it's going to get all the way to Old Harbor. It's definitely going to get into Moore's Pen. Oops. I don't know if it's going to get, it's probably not going to get north of the T1 highway here. But you're going to get some pretty strong wind gusts up to 100 miles per hour in Old Harbor. I think I'm going to pin Veronica's comment. It's a good point. Yeah, give us a like, subscribe. Thank you, Ryan, for the shout out there. If we could summarize all this storm in one sentence, is that the entire island of Jamaica is going to get hit. It's going to be kind of separated into two separate parts. The western third of the island is going to get the worst wind. You're talking wind speeds, wind gusts upwards of 180, 200 miles per hour. Those will come down a little bit after the storm makes landfall and the hurricane loses its energy source, which is the ocean. And then east of impact, east of landfall, which is probably going to be somewhere between White House, Black River, and maybe Treasure Beach. Landfall looks like it's going to be right in there. You're going to get really heavy storm surge on the eastern side of the storm. Crazy amounts of water getting pushed inland. You're going to have crazy coastal flooding there. And you're still going to have some coastal flooding as far east as Kingston and maybe all the way around the southern coast. It's not going to be as high as areas just to the east of the eye upon landfall. The most rain going to fall pretty much in the central section of the island. That's where the Hurricane Center has the highest rainfall totals. This is rain still to come. This does not include rain that has already fallen, especially the rain that has fallen in the eastern third of the island so far. Thank you, Becky. What percentage certainty do you have that it will make landfall? 99. 99%. Ocho Rios, if I had to pick a city to ride out the storm in terms of safety, I'd probably pick Ocho Rios. I would. Not to say there's not going to be impacts, but you're probably going to have the least amount of impacts in Ocho Rios. Here's another view of the eye. Crazy. Wow. See Jamaica, really good YouTube channel. We're using them for some of we've donated to them. Marvin's done a great job with the cameras that are set up across the island of Jamaica. We'll see how long they stay up. Today, of course, they're going to stay up no problem, but once we hit landfall, as we're getting some white caps in Kingston Harbor as well. Chris, 99+%. It's going to make landfall, no doubt about it. No, this is just a hurricane, no tornado. You could get some tornadoes in these eastern bands, though. That's what we always see with landfalling tropical cyclones. There's so much spin in the atmosphere thanks to these hurricanes that you're probably going to see a few tornadoes spin up east of the center. Winds getting heavy now, according to All-Star. You've got about 3,000 votes in the poll, and about half of you watching from Jamaica. It's literally split. It's 49-51. It's almost split down the middle. What should we look at next? Waterhouse had a couple. Waterhouse Drive in Kingston. Kingston's going to get hit with 80 to 90 mile per hour winds and at least a foot of rain. Flooding is going to be the main threat in Kingston. Wind picking up in Portmore in St. Catherine Parish. There's the radar loop. I mean, this image says it all, and you can see it moving to the northwest right in those last few scans. Maybe I can, oops, I didn't mean to close it. If we do this, watch these last few scans. There's that northwest jump. It's starting to make that right-hand turn, going northwest now, then it'll turn north, and then it'll turn northeast. Kingston relatively quiet. Well, that's good, I guess. Keep an eye on all these cameras across Kingston. We want to take any of these full. This is the Kingston Harbor camera that's behind my left shoulder. We got some white caps out there. Camera shaking around a little bit. Oh, these aren't current. Now they are. This is a camera I'm really interested to see how long this camera stays up. The Flat Bridge camera, Rio Cobra River, St. Catherine. Are these cameras working? So it looks like two cameras already went down. Either went down or, yeah, Can't really see much there. Downtown Parade camera. Not bad yet. Breezy, but not bad yet. Got some cars out there. Barbican, this is in St. Andrew. Looks pretty calm, to be quite honest. The calm before the storm, that's what we'll call that. Thoughts on central parishes? Strong winds, heavy rain. Every parish is going to get hit hard, especially I think the central parishes, you could argue, are going to get hit the worst because you're going to have the most rain and the most wind kind of coming together in the central part of the country. Yeah, the calm before the storm. The harbor camera is probably the most interesting right now. I don't know if he's controlling this or it's moving around on its own. White caps out there. Crossroads camera. These will be interesting to watch tomorrow. There's not a whole lot going on today. As we are in kind of the calm before the storm for a lot of areas. All Stars saying Melissa will touch down at 6 to 7 p.m. No, it's going to be tomorrow morning. It's going to be probably 9 o'clock, 9 or 10 o'clock local time. We'll be live tomorrow morning around 7 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Jamaican time to continue our live coverage, especially to watch the live cameras. Riley is going on holiday to Jamaica. And Madison, I literally took the words out of your mouth. We'll be live from about 7 or 8 a.m. until at least until Melissa leaves the island. At least until about 4 or 5 p.m. And if Montego Bay is still getting hit by this kind of back-end surge, This is what, 1 p.m. local time? We're probably live until at least 4 o'clock local time tomorrow. I'll eat on stream. No, I won't do that. But what time is it going to hit? Landfall tomorrow morning about 8 a.m. local time, 8 or 9 a.m. local time, plus or minus an hour. Got about 1,800 folks in here. Share this with your friends. Like and subscribe. Hopefully providing some informative content, as Hurricane Melissa is now the strongest storm this late in the season on record in the Atlantic. Crazy stuff. Now it looks like it's wobbled a little bit back to the west here. Those last couple scans, it looks like it moves. We'll jump west. Hold on. Look at that. See that kind of left-hand turn there? You're always going to get these wobbles with major hurricanes. They kind of have a mind of their own once they get this strong. Thank you, Traveling, for sharing. Appreciate that, Mr. Joe. Thanks for being here, Joe. Kingston, 80 to 90 mile per hour winds and at least a foot of rain. Rainfall, flooding, especially in urban areas, which Kingston obviously is. Lots of roads, sidewalks, buildings, not a lot of areas for the water to run off to. Somebody was in the live chat yesterday stating how there were some summer storms that caused some pretty major flooding in downtown Kingston. And this is going to be obviously a lot more than just a summer storm. It will be the strongest hurricane to hit Jamaica. Yes, Riley. Gilbert was a low-end Category 4 when it made landfall back in 1988. And obviously Melissa, as you can see in the top left, is a Category 5 with winds of 175 miles per hour. Just checking the cameras over my shoulder here. Got some follows on the TikTok. Thank you guys. We got a whole lot more people on the YouTube. I appreciate you guys for being here. Giving out the info that needs to be going out, obviously. Folks talking about landfall locations. Every single computer model that we have seen today has a landfall somewhere along the southwestern coast, between about Savannah, Lamar, and Treasure Beach. If I were to narrow it down, I would say, if I had to get real specific, I would say White House or Black River, if I had to narrow it down to a more precise location for landfall. Daniel, we can hope, we can pray, but we would need an absolute miracle for that to happen. An absolute miracle. I would love one. I mean, somebody's going to get hit. I don't want anybody to get hit by a major hurricane. Natalie's watching from Wales. Thank you, Natalie, for stopping by the stream, Natalie. Kimmy in the TikTok wants to know about Hanover and St. James. St. James is up here, right? Yeah, you're going to get some really strong wind. The strongest wind is going to be in the western third of the country. Hanover Parish, St. James Parish. Which one's this one again? Westmoreland Parish, St. Elizabeth Parish, and even in the western part. Yeah, the western part of St. Elizabeth Parish and Trelawney Parish. So kind of the western third of the country. I should probably redraw this. Probably like here, or even further west, like here, will have the worst winds. Anything west of that you're going to have winds upwards of 150 miles per hour for wind gusts. It can be crazy winds where that core comes ashore. Ash says it's raining in Spanish Town. Oops. What islands will the hurricane hit? We can look at that with this. Here is Melissa. Actually, let's go a little bit closer in here. So it hits Jamaica tomorrow, back over water, then hits Cuba like middle of the night Wednesday night. This is 5 a.m. Wednesday, Eastern time. Moves out back into the southwestern Atlantic Wednesday. At this point, the core has basically fallen apart here after 2 landfalls, but still brings potential major hurricane wind gusts to the southeastern Bahamas, even the Turks and Caicos out here to the east. And then it moves northeast. And there is Bermuda. Bermuda is going to see some effects from Melissa on Friday. So we're talking Jamaica, Cuba, the southeastern Bahamas, Bermuda, the Turks and Caicos, all seeing some impacts in some way, shape, or form from Melissa. Crazy. All is quiet on the flat bridge in St. Catherine right now at the Rio Cobre River. Cobre or Cobra? I don't know. Yeah, it'll be in Jamaica for about 4 to 5 hours, Ashway. It'll take about 4 or 5 hours to cross over the entire island. Harbor's getting a little bit more active. Chris is convinced that Melissa will miss to the west. Chris, maybe. Probably not, though. Very, very, very low chance that the core of the storm misses to the west. Every hurricane model, every reliable computer model has a landfall somewhere in the southwestern area of the island. Yeah, there's going to be a big response, All-Star, to this, I think. There's going to be a big response in terms of humanitarian aftermath because it's going to need one. We're going to need a major response. Jamaicans are going to need all the help they can get because this is going to be catastrophic for most of the island. The Cayman Islands are not getting hit. I don't know where the Messy Channel show got that one, but the Cayman Islands are not getting hit. Why do you think it's a weird hurricane, Joanna? This is West Parade. Yeah, Andrew was in 1992. If you were in Miami, that was the last Cat 5 to hit the U.S. until Hurricane Michael hit Florida in 2018. Yeah, Andrew in 92. There were 2 Category 5 hurricanes earlier this year, actually. Aaron and I'm blanking on the other one. Put me on the spot, Simone. There have been a couple Cat 5s, though, this year. They have not hit land. This is the first major hurricane to make a landfall anywhere this year. But how wide is Melissa? Let's actually go to the Hurricane Center for that answer. So this is really interesting. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 30 miles from the center. That is a really small area. So very small radius of maximum winds. And even a pretty small radius of tropical storm force winds, about 200 miles. And that's what allows the hurricane so much strength. It's like when a figure skater is out on the ice, he or she has their arms really close to their body to spin really fast for the conservation of centrifugal force. And that's what's happening here. The eye really small, and that allows the storm to spin really, really fast. You can see the eye really well on this. See, I mean, it's tiny. It's tiny. And that red, that ring of red around the center of the storm is where the extreme 180 plus wind gusts are. There we go. Finally, let me stop it. Right here is where you've got wind gusts probably up to 180 miles per hour. Right there. Panama City feeling the effects of Michael? Yeah. Exit point on Jamaica, yeah. Where will Jamaica, or where will Melissa leave the island? Probably just east of Montego Bay. I saw K and I thought Kingston. It'll probably leave just east of Montego Bay, or potentially right on top of Montego Bay. This is not going to be a good scenario for Montego Bay at all. We're going to have wind gusts in Montego. I mean, I'll show them to you. Some of them were crazy numbers. 152 mile per hour wind gusts potentially in Montego Bay tomorrow. Crazy. Not good. Hurricane Ivan, yeah, in 2004. That was a bad one 21 years ago. Okay, now it's not looping. Now is it going to loop? No. Okay. Sometimes it wants to loop, sometimes it doesn't. Motivate You to Be Empowered is watching from Kingston as we just hit 40,000 total views on the stream on YouTube. Thanks to everybody for being here. We're trying to give you the most up-to-date info, the best forecast, the most what's the word I want? Most informative impact forecast we can give you, because we can tell you numbers, we can tell you what the storm is going to do. It's got 175 mile per hour winds right now, but what is it going to do when it makes landfall? That's, of course, the ultimate question. Yeah, it's making that right turn right now, as a matter of fact. It's a quick reminder for tomorrow. We will be live all day tomorrow to cover the landfall of Melissa. This is going to be a marathon live stream tomorrow. We'll be live first at about 7 or 7:30 Eastern time, and we'll be live as long as it's making impacts on the island of Jamaica. This is a scenario where the forecast is pretty much baked in. There is not much that could happen at this point to change the outcome of what's going to happen here. The outcome or the forecast is baked in. I'm glad somebody asked about the hurricane hunters. I almost forgot about this. They are on their way right now. So we will see what the hurricane hunters, mission number 21, what they find in Melissa. These are horrendous wind gusts. Montego Bay is going to have potentially catastrophic damage tomorrow from these wind gusts. And then we talked about that storm surge as well. Even once the storm leaves the island and it's back into the Caribbean Sea, you've still got winds wrapping around here that can push water into the shoreline. You're going to push ocean water directly in here. On the eastern side of the eye, on this side, you're going to be fine. That's why I would pick somewhere in the northeastern part of the island is probably the safest. Still going to get bad wind, bad rain, but you're not going to get mega wind, that's for sure, and you're not going to get the storm surge. So the eye wall distance from land, well, it's 145, you see in the top left, it's 145 miles southwest of Kingston, at least the center of the storm is. Does this radar loop have... If we knew what this range ring was, we would know how far it is from Kingston. But what are the SSTs under Melissa's track? Warm, very warm. Over 30 degrees Celsius. Crazy warm. And obviously, much warmer than they should be for this time of the year. What is this, about a degree warmer than normal for this time of the year? The Gulf is worse. Look at the Western Gulf, much warmer than average. Yeah, mountains like to do interesting things to hurricanes. We'll put it that way. Nordia says rain just started in Montego Bay. Yeah, Melissa has to deal with the mountains. That will tell if it swings back further east. Which one of these should we watch? I mean, this is a pretty good one right now. How long will the flat bridge camera make it tomorrow? Does it make it through the morning? I don't know. How do the hurricane hunters... Yeah, these are live cameras. These are live cameras. Clarendon's going to get hit. Every parish on the island's going to get hit, just some worse than others. Clarendon, I'd call it an 8.5 or 9. Bull Bay, similar story, 8.5. The hurricane hunters had to get out of the eye by flying out of it, by putting their lives on the line. There are some brave souls that fly the Hurricane Hunter missions. That is for sure. Speaking of, they are flying into the storm right now. I think they just took off. I think they just took off from Florida. So they've got probably an hour, hour and a half to get there. But we are going to find out some interesting information when they do get there. That is for sure. The storm is not man-made. I can give you a 5-minute explanation of why it's moving west, then north, then northeast. But that'll bore some folks because of what's happening in the United States. That's why it's moving the way it is and why it's now going to be moving northeast. No winds in Kingston. That sounds like the calm before the storm right there. Trelawney's going to get hit. Every parish is going to get hit, some worse than others. The central and western part of the island is going to get hit the worst, though, especially wind and rain. The live cameras are, you can go watch them on YouTube right now. See Jamaica. Awesome Twitter, awesome YouTube account. We donated to them. Marvin does some great work. That's a YouTube stream right there. The internet is a great thing. Winds gusting at the Kingston Airport at 27 to 38 knots. So you've got some pretty intense winds there, gusting to 38 knots. That's about 45 to 50 miles per hour in Kingston right now. There's going to be damage all across the island, Dwayne. How many of these cameras are going to make it through tomorrow? That's kind of the million-dollar question, right? I don't think this camera is in these 8, because I'm pretty sure Marvin's got 10 cameras, and there's only 8 on this website. Sharon's watching from Florida. Yeah, Audrey, Beryl is going to, compared to Beryl. Well, Beryl is a afternoon thunderstorm compared to Melissa. I mean, it really is. They fly out of the eye, Teresa. They put their lives on the line to get us some of the most incredible data on Mother Nature on the planet. Mark is watching from Tampa. I don't think there are any cameras in the southwestern part of the island because we're going to get landfall somewhere between Savannah, Lamar, and Treasure Beach. Landfall is going to be somewhere in here, probably somewhere in the middle, between Black River and White House. Is probably going to be where landfall happens. I don't think there's any cameras down there. There might be some crazy hurricane chasers that choose to make that place their home for a few days. More power to them, I guess. But kind of a dangerous situation, that's for sure, for somebody to be chasing this. We're going to stay live we're probably going to stay live until the next Hurricane Hunter aircraft gets into Melissa. We'll get the latest data. We've got the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center coming in the next half hour. So we'll be live probably another hour or so until about 4:30 local time in Jamaica, 5:30 East Coast time, until we get some new information from both the Hurricane Center and from the brave souls on board the Hurricane Hunter aircraft as well. I really want to know what the Hurricane Hunters are going to find. Matt, you hit the nail on the head right there. They punch it, they core punch it, and they get You said it. You said it. You said it perfectly. You don't need me to say anything more. What do we got here? Hurricane, they're at least an hour out. I mean, they're still in Florida. They just took off. They might be closer to an hour and a half out, at least from the center, from the eye of the storm. I really want to know what's going through their heads right now. They definitely realize they're going into one of the strongest storms on record in the world, let alone the Atlantic. The question is, do they find winds higher than 175 miles per hour at the surface? My guess is yes, but we'll see. Wish I could zoom in for, okay, there's a little bit of a better look. Yeah, I mean, just about every single model puts the landfall point in here. You're going to get extreme winds from Savannah, Lamar over to Treasure Beach. Extreme winds here. And then that's going to continue. You could include all the way up here. That's likely your corridor of most intense winds. Right there. Chris is a non-believer and wants the 5-minute explanation. Let's do some meteorology here. All right, this is this afternoon's run of the European model. You've got an area of high pressure at 500 millibars, which is about 17,000 feet up into the atmosphere. That's the mean flow for the hurricane. Another area of high pressure over here across the Lesser Antilles. This is why the storm has been moving so slow. These two steering currents are pretty far away from the storm, but it feels the one to the east a little bit more, and because the air around high pressure moves clockwise, that is why it's been moving west. But this batch of high pressure here has been weakening and moving off to the east. At the same time, you see these browns coming together here across the Straits of Florida. This is a part of a long wave trough, area of low pressure across the Tennessee Valley in America, that is basically swooping down here. See this batch of brown here? There's Melissa. There's the long wave trough. Melissa feels this influence and wants to go northeast. A secondary area of low pressure forms across the Mississippi Valley, and that causes Melissa to move even faster off to the northeast, essentially paralleling that upper level energy across America and causing both features, both the inland low pressure system, the mid-latitude baroclinic area of low pressure, to move northeast, and Melissa to basically parallel that movement and also move northeast. Gigantic is convinced the storm's man-made. Convinced. He has no doubt. It's just bad timing for Jamaica. It's a pretty typical pattern this time of the year in the U.S. You always get a big cold front to move across the country. I'm in North Carolina. It's cold today. This is the time of the year it gets cold. You always get a cold front to march across the U.S. this time of the year. And that always happens in late October. Halloween, I used to live in Miami for 4 years. Halloween, you always saw the first cold front right around Halloween. And that is what's causing this to move off to the northeast. Appreciate that, Matt. We're trying to do the science. We're trying to convey how the science of meteorology works. How does the hurricane hunters get into the eye with the wind? They just core punch it. They've got some guts, and they do it for science. They've got some guts, and they do it for science. Why doesn't it choose northwest? Because it literally can't. This area of high pressure across Mexico blocks it. This is a force field here for both the Gulf, yet clockwise flow around this high. This is also why it's been moving so slowly. These two forces are competing against each other. This batch of high pressure wants to move Melissa south, but this batch wants to move it north. And because it's closer to what's going on in the Lesser Antilles, that's why the north movement is winning. And usually it does this time of the year. If the high pressure in Mexico was closer to Baja, like towards Cabo, that would cause a solution that would bring the United States into play and this storm to enter the Gulf. But that's not going to happen. It's the worst hurricane to hit Jamaica, that's for sure. KGQ. We're going to see Katrina level destruction in Jamaica. I really think we are. Because of the rain, because of the wind. I mean, this is a 175 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane. This is a insanely strong hurricane. That's not why they timed the visit. They're actually a little bit late. Usually they try to get in a flight in before the 5 p.m. advisory. You see the top of the screen here, top left, next NHC update in the next 23 minutes. They'll drop it before 5 o'clock. Usually they try to get the data before the 5 o'clock advisory, so they're actually a little bit late. If the Earth was flat, we would not have the Coriolis force, and if we didn't have the Coriolis force, we would not have weather. The Coriolis force is, I remember learning about that in atmospheric dynamics. I'd never want to take that class again. Enough calculus, enough triple integrals, enough double derivatives. I'm good on that. I never want to take that class again. We'll have the next NHC update in the next 20 minutes. Could drop any minute now. And then we'll watch for the hurricane hunters. They're on their way there now. Looks like they just got to the Gulf. So they're about an hour away. We'll stay on the air until we get our next update from the hurricane hunters. Is southwest possible? No, it is not going to move southwest. We got almost 4,000 votes in our poll. Are you watching from Jamaica? We got about 3,800 votes, and about half said yes, about half said no. Jody wants to know, very concerned about Negril. There's going to be some big-time wind in Negril. Big-time wind, 140-plus mile per hour gusts. There's going to be some bad damage in Negril there on the west side of the island. It looks like the eye wall just might miss Negril. It's going to be close, but you're still going to have some pretty catastrophic damage there. Maybe wind gusts right around 100 miles an hour, I would say there. Well, there's no hydrogen in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% everything else, including water vapor, which is what Melissa has a lot of. Montego Bay, we are really concerned about Montego Bay. It's probably a good thing I had this up. The eye wall is going to go right over Montego Bay, it looks like. That means you're going to have wind gusts here. I mean, this would be catastrophic. 152 miles per hour for Montego Bay. Bad. Concrete structures, even well-built concrete structures, may not be able to withstand a 150-plus mile per hour wind gust. I mean, impossible. Yeah, not good for Montego Bay. What did I draw? From here to here will be the worst winds. You could have wind gusts 140 plus miles per hour, especially in the higher elevation. You could have some wind gusts up in the mountains, 170 plus miles per hour. Most worry from about 5 a.m. until 5 p.m. tomorrow. Basically the entire daylight hours. It weakens some. It's going to be a Category 3 when it hits Cuba. Category 3 storm when it hits Cuba. Trelawney. Yeah, there's going to be bad wind in Trelawney, especially the western half of the parish. Like there's going to be the tree, like the drone video that comes out of some of the mountains after the storm is going to be jaw-dropping, of trees down and water running down mountains and landslides and mudslides. The video coming out tomorrow, as long as communication lines stay open, which God knows how long they're going to stay up in terms of power lines, comm lines, etc. Yeah, it's a lot. If I had to pick somewhere to ride it out, if I lived on the island, I could drive anywhere, I would go near the Ian Fleming Airport up here near Ocho Rios. Because you're not going to get any storm surge up here. If you are, it's not going to be that much. It's going to be less compared to anywhere on the southern side of the island and anywhere on the northwestern corner of the island. The max wind stays to your west, and the max, you're going to get a lot of rain. That is the problem with being in the northeastern area, and you could get mudslides, you could get some pretty catastrophic flooding, but that's the problem. Yeah, I mean, if the earth was flat, we wouldn't have weather. I mean, forget it, you wouldn't have weather, period. The Coriolis force would not exist, and then you would not have pressure gradients. I'm not going to get all into the dynamics of meteorology, but if you boil it all the way down, yeah. 5 a.m. might be a little early. This is 7 a.m. local time. This is when the hurricane force gusts start making landfall. The eye is still offshore. You see the eye here. This is 7 a.m. local time, but the strong winds about to push on shore. The worst time frame is between about 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Working hours, I guess, local time tomorrow. Winds in Kingston, 91 to 100 gusts, but the winds in Montego Bay are going to be much worse. No update from the Hurricane Center yet. I really want to know what the hurricane hunters are going to find. It's up there. Montego Bay is going to be one of the hardest hit in the country. There's no doubt about that. It's if you had to pick between Kingston and Montego, the two most populated cities in the country, Montego Bay is going to get hit worse than Kingston. Thank you for being here, Madison. We try. I think the latest advisory just got pushed. They kept it at 175 mile per hour. It's now moving northwest at 3. Waiting on our location or info bug here to update. Pressure stays at 906. Very few changes. Warnings issued for the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, so there's a new change. This map has not updated yet. The advisory literally came out 90 seconds ago. Melissa now moving northwestward while warnings issued for the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Catastrophic, life-threatening winds, flooding, and surge expected on Jamaica tonight and Tuesday. There's a hurricane warning for the southeastern and central Bahamas, and there's a tropical storm warning for the Turks and Caicos. Those are the changes with this advisory. And now it's reflecting on our bug. There it is, northwest at 3. The pressure has not changed. The max wind has not changed, mainly because the hurricane hunters have not been in there since the 2 o'clock advisory. They are on their way as we speak. Should we stay on? They are passing over the Florida Keys right now. Here's Florida. You can see it. So they're probably, I don't know, at least an hour away, maybe an hour and a half. We're probably an hour away. So do we want to stay on the air? Do we want to? If you follow us on Twitter, we'll have the latest on the pass from the recon flight as it happens. And I got to be up early tomorrow morning to cover the landfall. Tomorrow is going to be a marathon. So we might end it here unless we want me to stay on. What do we want to do? I don't know what we're looking at here. Had almost 45,000 views on the stream so far. We peaked at, I think, about 2,400 concurrent, 2,500. We could take a 5-minute break. We could get off for the day. We could stay on. Yeah, wooded shacks are going to get, pick your verb, they're going to get destroyed. I mean, if you get 150 mile per hour wind gusts in Montego Bay, a concrete structure may not even withstand that. Will you come back on with the hurricane hunters if you do leave? Probably not. Probably not, because the storm is not really impacting Jamaica today. We should make flash gear. Which hazards do you expect to be the greatest threat? How do you pick one? I'm really worried about the wind in Montego Bay. I'm really worried about the flooding in the mountains to cause landslides, river flooding, etc. I don't know how you pick one. The surge along the southern coast is going to be horrendous. If I promise to be here early. Do I get a kick from doing this? What do you think? Do you think I enjoy talking about hundreds of people dying tomorrow? You can answer that question yourself. The views have been dropping pretty steadily. I think we might end it here. We don't really have anything new. The Hurricane Center did not update anything with their advisory. Usually the hurricane hunters, it's kind of weird they left at 4 o'clock. Usually they leave at like 3 to get there at 4:30 to have the data for the 5 o'clock advisory. So I'm a little confused why they left at 4:30 and not 3:15 or 3:30. But anyways, even if the hurricane hunters find that it's strengthened to 185 miles per hour, it does not change the impacts. Tomorrow is going to be one of those catastrophic days for the country of Jamaica in recorded history. We're going to have wind gusts over 150 miles per hour in the western part of the island, 30 inches of rain, storm surge up to 20 feet along the southern coast, especially the southwestern coast. We're going to see some apocalyptic scenes after tomorrow. So 7 a.m., we'll call it 7:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. That's, I think, 12:30 UK time. You can say I'm scaring people. You wait until you see what happens tomorrow. There's a difference between scaring and preparing. You wait and see. I don't want, what's going to happen tomorrow, I do not want to happen. If we could keep, we got lucky with Aaron. We've got lucky the whole hurricane season. Unfortunately, our time has run out, and unfortunately for Jamaica, it's Jamaica that's in the crosshairs. So we will be live tomorrow morning all day covering the impacts of what's going to be one of the most catastrophic storms to make landfall of the 21st century. My thoughts and prayers with the Jamaicans. This is going to be a whole humanitarian relief effort in the aftermath. And hopefully we can hope for a miracle. But I was hoping one of the model runs yesterday tried to miss it to the west, but even that model came back east today and has landfall somewhere on the southwestern part of the island. My son was caught in Maria. It was terrifying. Tomorrow is going to be a lot like Maria. A lot like Maria. I think that could be the most parallel storm to Melissa is Maria tomorrow. Melissa is even a little bit stronger than Maria was when it made landfall in Puerto Rico. So, all right, we'll be live tomorrow. Marathon, we'll be live for probably 10 hours or so tomorrow. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Like, subscribe, download the Flash app, and we will see you